Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from Frontier. I apologize for my absence Monday through Wednesday, but I was on a visit to Base Titanium, which is a $310 million capex mineral sands project on the south coast of Kenya. And most enjoyable visit, I must say, and they've really made tremendous strides, survived the bust, the commodities bust, and a lot else besides. And it was a pleasure being down there, spending time with that team and with Tim Carstens as well. If you haven't seen Mr. Siddharth Chatterjee's Mind Speak, maybe you should. And the whole interview is on YouTube. I'll put up a photograph where he very kindly dedicated his run to myself and the incredible audience who joined Mind Speak on the 25th of February. We've also separated out the Q&A. Take a look at that. That's interesting as well. Some great interventions, particularly by a young lady from northern Kenya. Do take a look at that. And really thank you to Sid for a great Mind Speak. I did an interview with Charles Hecker of Control Risks. Very interesting one. Take a look at that if you haven't had a chance yet. Macro thoughts. US hits new highs. And take a look at this. The Dow Jones has surged since Donald Trump won the election. Needed just 5 weeks for its latest 1,000 point surge. Has gained 16% since Trump's election. Surged 300 points to close above 21,000 for the first time. We crossed 20,000 just a few weeks ago, you'll remember. And have a look at this from Holger. The Dow rally looks crazy, even in log scale. However, it's something to consider that most reliable valuation measures are beyond 1929 highs. Just 7% would eclipse March 2000. S&P lost 11% over the following 3 weeks. Crowded exit. And then this tweet from Holger again. This is how Trump's anti-Wall Street promise looks like. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have gained 39% and 33% respectively since the election, and just hit fresh highs yesterday. And now you mentioned that point, the banksters are back. It is ironic that Goldman Sachs played such a central role in the WikiLeaks. And then when you see the appointments in the administration, it's practical takeover or reverse takeover, whatever you care to call it. Flying over Kenya, I flew back yesterday on Air Kenya, and it was quite interesting because for most of the flight, when you look down, the land is parched, it's scorched, it's bone dry. There was a piece, and I can't remember exactly where, but about halfway through, so somewhere around the Savo, I think, where there was a lot of cloud. And then I saw this tweet from Kenya Pics, no filters, just a beautiful rainy afternoon sundowner in the Chulu Hills. So I think that would be most welcome. And of course, this dry spell has been created by an obscure climate phenomenon in the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean dipole is contributing to an East African drought that is threatening the lives of millions of people as famine looms. It wasn't until the 1990s that Japanese scientists discovered the Indian Ocean dipole, a warm pool of water that migrates between western and eastern poles and affects atmospheric temperatures and rainfall. The phenomenon occurs in cycles of positive, warmer, and negative, cooler sea temperatures, but it has become more extreme in recent years due to climate change. A negative Indian Ocean dipole results in less rainfall over East Africa, and that's contributing to the current drought that aid agencies warn could trigger mass famine. And for no good reason, I'll put up a photograph of the Langata cemetery I took as we were coming into land at Wilson Airport. David Yarrow tweeted, a tough day at the office, but I will persevere here in the Masai Mara as a lion made off with his camera. This morning I had breakfast at a place called the Secret Garden, and this painting caught my attention. as it was probably intended to do. Microfossils date from around 4.3 billion years ago, indicating life as we know it started much earlier than we previously thought. The European Commission has just published its white paper on the future of Europe. On March 25, 2017, 27 leaders of the European Union's member states will stand united in peace and friendship in Rome. That alone is an achievement that many would have thought unthinkable when the 6 founding member states agreed on the treaties of Rome 60 years ago. As we mark the anniversary, our thoughts are with those before us whose dream for Europe has become a reality. Now is the time to reflect with pride on our achievements and to remind ourselves of the values that bind us together. And as I previously said, I think they're surrounded right now, tremendous pressure. I believe in the European project, but I'm really concerned at the direction of travel. Merkel pushes investment to stem migrant flows. This is this whole concept that if they have more economic activity in Africa, it's going to mean fewer people are going to want to leave. And Angela Merkel is getting a bit more serious about it. A softer side of Trump. This was his speech, which I woke up early in the morning at 5 in the morning in Diani to listen to, and it was softer and gentler. And I think his daughter has a lot to do with that. Ivanka Trump pushed to include paid family leave, women's health and environment in the Trump speech. And Ivanka Trump reminds me of a girl I once knew, introduced to me via the good offices of a friend of mine called Lynn Menuhin. Her name was Cosima von Bülow. And I'll put up a photograph of her with her father. Some of you might know the story, the backstory to that. Sessions spoke with Russian envoy during Trump's 2016 campaign. US Attorney General, just remember that, Jeff Sessions, conversations with Russia's ambassador to the US while he was a prominent surrogate for President Donald Trump's election campaign. Even though he said during his confirmation hearing that no contacts had occurred. The Justice Department confirmed late Wednesday. Justice Department spokeswoman Sarah Isgur Flores portrayed the contacts that Sessions had with Ambassador Sergei Kislyak as part of his work as a senator rather than a surrogate for Trump's campaign. Last year, the senator had over 25 conversations with foreign ambassadors as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee, including the British, Korean, Japanese, Polish, Indian, Chinese, Canadian, Australian, German, and Russian ambassadors, last of all. She said he was asked during the hearing about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign, not about meetings he took as a senator and a member of the Armed Services Committee. Well, the revelation reported earlier by the Washington Post has raised fresh questions about which Trump associates had contacts with Russian government officials during the presidential campaign and what was discussed. It's likely to intensify demands that Sessions recuse himself from investigations into Russian hacking in last year's campaign. What is clear is that Sessions and Flynn, this is my conclusions, had these conversations with the full knowledge of the principle. That's clear as day. I'll put up a photograph of Jeff Sessions. I wrote about this previously, and it seems the level of interference. I was writing it in the context of the election campaign. On 5th of December 2016, I spoke about how we have a deviate tomahawk, gross oscillation here, and I was talking about the Russian involvement in the election and damping down Hillary support and feeding the hothouse frenzy that improved the turnout for Donald Trump. Europeans gave US info about meetings between Russian officials and Trump associates. IC also intercepted Russian officials discussing meetings. People in the Obama White House started asking questions at briefings to ensure that answers would be recorded for Congress to find. Interesting, that. Al-Qaeda has gotten an Oscar Hollywood is all about fake. That is what movies are, fake depictions of a fake reality that only exist in the mind of scriptwriters, directors, and a usually gullible audience. This is to do with the white helmets. And the Russian embassy in the United Kingdom tweeted, Russia welcomes Oscar's award for White Helmets film. Indeed, they are actors serving an agenda, not rescuers. Aurelia is talking about an attack on $115 yen. I'd like to think I was early to call that. I'm looking for a move higher than that, back to 118, in point of fact, on an interest rate differential situation. Euro, let's take a look at the currency markets. 105.41, dollar index 101.91, Japanese yen has just gone as 114.25 big. Swiss franc 101.04, pound 122.87. The Australian dollar is at 0.7655, Indian rupee 66.74, South Korean won 1141.60. The Rial 309, Egyptian pound, which I said was expensive at a 15 handle, is at 1605.17, and the South African Rand 1304.58. We're obviously seeing a stronger dollar. Have a look at this dollar index. A rate hike is a near certainty this month, and therefore I think we're going higher still in this dollar index. Euro dollar, last trading 105.40. It's doing some work, it's found some support around here. I think if you're looking to sell it like I am, you've got to sell it above 106. Snap prices its IPO at $17 a share, $1 above the price range, valuing the firm at $24 billion, which makes it number 38 in a global tech ranking. Have a look at this from Holger as well. Gold, last trading at, where are we now? It's disappeared, 1244, 1245. I think it's a big sell. Crude oil in the States, $53.83. I think it's about to tumble. Then it could squeeze back higher to about 55.50 before it tumbles, and that's the nature of crude oil, so you've got to keep a close eye on it. Chocolate prices to fall as cocoa surplus seen at 6-year high. Chocolate prices are set to fall as the world cocoa market shifts from a deficit to the largest surplus in 6 years, according to the International Cocoa Organization. Global production will top demand by 264,000 metric tons in the 2016-2017 season. Deficit was 196,000 tons in the preceding year. World output is seen rising almost 15% to 4.55 million tons in the current season, with gains in Ivory Coast the top grower. And there's absolute debacle in the Ivory Coast because the government promised higher prices, market prices are lower, and a bunch of contracts have gone bust. Mozambique will seek to negotiate a restructuring of part of its debt, its Prime Minister said on Wednesday. So that's interesting and positive news. Well, it might not be so positive, though they might seek to renegotiate, but I'm not sure people will agree. I actually think if you can buy those bonds at a steep discount, 50 cents in the dollar, you go through the restructuring, you get some gas warrants, and you could make out quite well. Fastest growing African economy has banks lining up for entry. They're all lining up, but I'm not sure they're going to get a license to operate at this point in time. Lenders are lining up to establish a presence in Ethiopia, one of Africa's fastest growing and most underbanked economies. Now they need the government to let them open their doors. Over the past 2 years, Standard Bank Group, KCB have joined the likes of Citi, Commerzbank and EcoBank in setting up representative offices in Sub-Saharan Africa's second most populous country. They're wagering that the country's ambitions to join the WTO, coupled with increasing demand for capital to support the economy, will lead the government to open up an industry that's been closed to investors since a Marxist junta nationalized banks 4 decades ago. Still, they'll be investing in a country that's cracked down on political opponents, with the benefits of faster growth yet to trickle down to the majority of the population. They've consistently scored around 10% GDP rates. They're the highest now in Sub-Saharan Africa. It has the potential to become one of the most exciting banking markets in the region, Robert Besseling. The prize is a $62 billion economy of 105 million people. It's grown quicker than any other in sub-Saharan Africa over the past decade and may expand 7.5% this year. The closed banking sector could be eventually opened up for foreign investment. This is Besseling again, although it might not be in 2017. Certainly not, in my view. South African all shares up 2.03% this year. Dollar rand, last time I looked, around the 13.02 level. As I said, I thought the rand was a bit of a sell with a 12 handle. Egyptian pound, take a look at this, 16.20, below 16, it's expensive. The Ghana Stock Exchange, I think it's Africa's best performing stock market this year, up 10.58% this year. I wrote about that in Growth Crossings, where I said I think it's going to be moving Ghanaian asset prices from policy-making haircut scenario to a premium. Sanlam reported full-year earnings this morning, and of course they issued a profits warning and then pulled it, which is a first, I think. Interesting results. Let me go through it a bit. Gross written premium up 0.829%. Fair value gains, they actually booked a loss of 450.341 million. Fully operating expenses up 13.837%. Profit before tax was up 483%. EPS, they booked a profit of 63 cents a share versus a loss of 43 cents a share last time round. In their commentary, life insurance gross written premium declined by 5%. Retail business was impacted by the expected effects of streamlining the distribution channels and agency force aimed at improving productivity going forward. Investment portfolio earnings increased by 50% to 2.1 billion in 2016, driven by good investment returns. It seems they did well in the bond market and took their gains, which was a clever move. General insurance gross written premium grew by 58%. Asset management fee income increased by 31%. They'd previously been booking some serious profits from property sales, but this time round they're saying that the property market was depressed. This was much better than expected results. It's still on an expensive PE of nearly 40, but I think this is something worth keeping an eye on. KenGen reported first half earnings. Electricity revenue was down marginally, 0.549%. Steam revenue was down 1.949%. Other income was down 47.59%, so a big hit there. The first half revenue was down 11.416%. Operating expenses up 6%. EBITDA was down 15.299%. Profit before tax down 21.684%. EPS down 18.605%. No interim dividend. Explanation: lower revenue from steam and commercial drilling services. Steam revenue decreased pretty substantially due to transmission constraints in the dispatch of wellhead units. They previously had a one-off arrears collection, which was pretty substantial. Carbon credits earned them $570,000. Performance for the remaining period to the end of June 30, 2017 is expected to improve following the completion of the evacuation line for the wellheads and the fixing of machine breakdowns, which affected some power plants. And they are going to start construction of the 158 megawatt Al-Qaeda 4 2016-2017 financial year. So some operational challenges, it seems, but it's a very cheap share in my opinion. We'll find out more. I'll go to the investor relations briefing on Monday and I'll have an interview with Albert so we can get up straight and see what's actually happening. M-Pesa is a critical nerve supporting the money transfer system. This is Linus Gitahi. A study of Kenya's telecommunications industry proposes breaking up Safaricom, the country's biggest company, according to brokerage AIB Capital. Report compiled by Analysis Mason proposes a raft of measures supposed to level the telecommunications playing ground and tame Safaricom, Gitahi said. Safaricom Chief Executive Officer last week criticized proposals by a Kenyan lawmaker to split the company as plain stupid. The company is 40% owned by Vodafone. If implemented, the proposals in the report risk untold consequences for Kenya's financial system. He's not wrong. M-Pesa is a critical nerve supporting the money transfer system. Ripping away M-Pesa from Safaricom would leave both in severe distress. Safaricom shares have tumbled yesterday to a 2017 and probably a 9-month low. I wrote about this over the weekend when I quoted Bob, it would imply that this is no longer a safe place. I said Safaricom made an outsized bet on the information superhighway and on mobile money. They made those investments, hundreds of billions of dollars in good faith. They would never have made those investments in Kenya Inc. if they'd been told that this is something that could happen. So I think it's a worrying signal, the wrong signal to be sending at this time. Entirely unfortunate, but I don't believe anything of the sort can possibly happen. Safaricom is down 10.966% this year. Kenya shilling below 103, 102.75, spike in inflation. Something to factor into why the shilling is strengthening. Nairobi all share is minus 8.02% year to date, fell a whopping 1.79% yesterday. NSE 20 is down 6.91% in 2017. Before you panic about Kenyan CPI, every single component except food is showing less than 5% year-on-year inflation. Food is 36% of the CPI basket. Good to be back. Thanks for stopping by. Always grateful.